in full very shortly. But before we dive into the discussion, I'd like all of us here in the virtual room to level set around a few key definitions and key facts and figures. So what are digital therapeutics and how do they differ from other digital health solutions? There's a myriad of digital health solutions out there on the market today, but we believe that digital therapeutics effectively have three key defining traits. First, the interventions are typically disease-specific. Secondly, they leverage software to deliver interventions. And thirdly, digital therapeutics must demonstrate clinical evidence and real-world outcomes and must be reviewed by regulatory bodies to support product claims of risk, efficacy, and intended use. The digital therapeutic market itself is expected to undergo significant growth in the coming years, with some estimates reaching up to $6.9 billion through 2025, which would represent about a growth of 30% per annum from 2020. This is driven by several factors. One, the growing incidence of preventable chronic diseases. Secondly, the need to control healthcare costs. Thirdly, rising investments in the area, as well as government initiatives to support technological advancements in this area. And finally, very importantly for our discussion today, improvements in the reimbursement structure for digital therapeutics. So when it comes to the actual reimbursement of digital therapeutics across the major European countries, one can quickly see that as of today, there's still a great variety with respect to the approaches that are being taken by different regulatory and policy authorities across the major European countries. While we have some countries such as Germany with the first license, public approval and licensing pathway, other countries are still having different approaches such as covering digital therapeutics selective contracting or primarily treating them as out-of-pocket expenses. And so with all those facts and figures in the back of our heads, let's begin to look forward through our panel discussion with the three panelists that are joining me here on the virtual stage today. First of all, we have Nora Blum, who's the CEO at SelfAp. We have Gloria Seibert, who's the founder and CEO at Therapeutics. And we have Alexandre Capet, who is the Vice President, Head Integrated Care at Bayer Pharma. And so to get us started, I would like each panelist to introduce themselves, share their background, and I'd also like to start with a bit of a personal question. And how have the last 12 months been for each of you, both personally as well as with your work in digital therapeutics? How's the pandemic affected, especially the way you've seen the digital therapeutics market? Has it been an accelerator or like we've seen with telemedicine? And maybe we start with Nora.
My name is Nora. I'm one of the founders of SelfAp, and with SelfAp we offer online programs for people with mental disorders, so for people suffering from depression, anxiety, or eating disorders, for example. I myself am a psychologist, so very much invested in the topic of improving the lives of people with mental health disorders, and we founded our company 6 years ago. We've taken different routes with SelfAp, so we worked a lot with health insurances in Germany, and now we are one of the players that is certified under the new Digital Care Act. So we are a general prescribable solution now in Germany. Yeah, more to that later. How's the last 12 months been for us and for me? Well, personally, actually, I felt very privileged because I still have a job, everyone in my family and my friends, everyone is healthy. So obviously it's been a tough past 1.5 to 2 years, I think, for everyone. I think for a lot of people it's been psychologically draining, which is why digital health solutions in that area are so important right now. But in general, personally, I can't, it hasn't been too tough, I think. With regards to SelfAp, obviously, we've seen a fast acceleration. There is an increased demand for online solutions for people with mental health disorders, and also obviously it becomes more difficult to go and get help via the traditional routes because a lot of practices are closed because of COVID. So we as a company has seen a big growth with regards to people using our services, and I think it just shows how important digital solutions are right now.
Thank you, Noah. Gloria, how's it been for you?
Yeah, thank you, Pekka, for the invitation. It's a really honor having me. Well, just a couple of words about Therapeutics. At Therapeutics, we bridge the gap from patients to evidence-based research and care. On the one hand side, we have a app platform technology, which we use to develop digital patient companions, trial companions, and also digital therapeutics. And through this app platform, we have access to more than 300,000 patients and their personal patient journey from the areas of women's health, multiple sclerosis, rheumatology, diabetes, and another dermatological disease. On top of this app platform technology, we offer biopharma, medtech, and government partners, as well as academia, the opportunity to generate real-world evidence and predictive capabilities to get a real understanding of what a disease is doing with individual patients, but also with the whole patient population. And to date, we work with more than 20 health insurances in Germany and with big pharma such as Novartis and Roche and a couple of biotech companies. Regarding your question, how the last 12 months in this whole COVID setup has been. So from a business point of view, I think the pandemic, as well as this whole remote setting, was a huge accelerator for all digital health business models out there. Also, we at Therapeutics saw a massive growth by more than 400%, I guess, when it comes to the business model, but also to the number of employees. And we also saw an increasing awareness for real world evidence. I think it's a great step which happened with BioNTech and all the insights they got from Israel to get a very deep understanding of the efficacy of the vaccination. And they took this insight as a fundament to spread the vaccination to other countries. From an entrepreneurial point of view, it was very challenging simply because entrepreneurship is always challenging. In a COVID setup, it's even more challenging. Having a people growth by more than 600%, onboarding people fully remote from different countries was definitely not the easiest thing what I did in my life. But overall, in line with what Nora said, I'm personally very thankful that we with Therapeutics are definitely on the easiest side of this pandemic with a growing business model and a bright future perspective. And we are very thankful for this.
Thank you, Gloria. So definitely the fast accelerator or the great accelerator as I was alluding to earlier. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Maybe shifting gears, going over to the pharma side, Alexandre.
Thanks, Pierka, and really great to be with you today. I'm Alex Capet, and I lead the commercialization of Bayer Digital Solutions. I think we are in a category where partnerships are somehow pivotal. And today I work a lot at Bayer with one drop. And actually, I start with partnerships 10 years ago. I was with Sanofi at that time, and I inked a partnership with Volantis. Then I joined Volantis, and I inked partnership with Sanofi, Novartis, Roche, AbbVie, BMS. And now just stepping back a little bit over the last 12 months, of course, super exciting. I think telemedicine is here to stay, obviously. And as for digital therapeutics, I think we have seen really an acceleration at every level: adoption, funding, partnerships, payer coverage, and even consolidations. So as Gloria and Noah said, we are really privileged to be in this category at this very exciting time indeed.
Well, they are exciting times indeed. And I think while we're on the topic of excitement, maybe Nora, a question for you. In your opinion, are the most exciting developments that you see in digital therapeutics, especially what TAs and what indications do you feel have the highest potential going forward?
Oh, for me, it's obviously very difficult to give an objective answer to that because I'm so invested into mental health. And I do believe that this is this is an area where the potential for digital solutions is just so big. First of all, we've seen a rise in mental illness over the pandemic. We've already seen a rise before in mental illness, and now due to the pandemic, there's been a steep increase in people suffering from mental health conditions. In Germany, there's been a 40% increase with requests to psychotherapists and people feeling unwell. Not only in the population of people that already suffered from a mental health problem, even those that consider themselves healthy say that right now in the pandemic they have feelings from psychological unwellness. So I think that this is just an area where it is so important that we look at this area and try to figure out ways to improve the mental well-being of people, because whilst on the one hand the demand for psychotherapy and for solutions for mental health increase, it is even more difficult right now to receive help, as a lot of practices close down, a lot of clinics cancel the psychiatric stays for patients. So it is a very tough solution, or very tough time, say, for people that suffer from a mental health conditions. And there is so much great evidence already that digital solutions can actually create great effects when helping people with mental health conditions. Like, we just closed one of our bigger studies with 400 participants with the Charité together in Berlin, and you could see that you could actually get really significant good results in reducing the symptoms of people. So I think this is actually an area where there will be more and more digital solutions helping people for mental disorders. And I'm very, very happy about this trend because I think it's so important.
Thank you for that, Nora. Gloria, you've mentioned earlier in your introduction that you actually work across a couple of TAs and indications already. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about that, and which TAs you find the most interesting personally as well, and that have the highest growth potential going forward?
Yeah, definitely. So I totally agree to what Nora just said. And I think this specifically addresses very broad therapeutic areas. Since the remote setting is a super high burden for everyone who is affected from a severe disease. And especially when you look into broad therapeutic areas like back pain, depression, diabetes, it's super thankful having offerings which are scalable, even in a remote setup. With Therapeutics, we also dig into indications which are which doesn't have that many affected people behind, like, for example, multiple sclerosis or specific rheumatology disease. And what we can see here is that these indications are really profiting from this big boom happening on the broader indications, because the public awareness is increasing, especially when it comes to the real the proven outcome from digital therapeutics. And this is basically a great fundament also for so-called niche therapeutic areas to consider also offering digital solutions in there. So from a very top-down point of view, when we take a look at the numbers and figures we see at Therapeutics, we have seen this massive growth also in this very broad therapeutic areas, like especially back pain and also women health. But we've seen a increased demand also from smaller therapeutic areas with a very high burden on the patient side, and also with a lot of digital affine patient groups behind.
So it's very much across the board in that case. Maybe Alexandra, switching to you, you've mentioned one drop earlier in your introduction as well, obviously very much focused on diabetes. Is that one of the only spaces, is that the main space that you consider as one that's important to invest in, or are there others that you also feel are going to be critical as we think about the potential of what digital therapeutics can do for the patient?
Yeah, Pirka, in your introduction, you alluded to the fact that we have different settings with digital therapeutics. It's multifaceted, you have different paradigms. And for me, DTX will progressively become mainstream, whatever these different settings. Okay, not only one drop, okay? So, and maybe if I elaborate a bit more, 3 categories here. You have digital therapeutics that are really drug specific. And I think they will grow, especially in high price specialty care treatment. Just think about oncology, for instance. Here, you have digital therapeutics that will enhance the real world efficiency of this treatment. They will optimize the dosage you know, they will minimize the side effects. And you will even further down the road, you will have regulatory wise, I think you will find, you will have the emergence of drug digital combined regulatory dossier. Second, you have DTX that are part of the treatment pathway, but they are drug agnostics, and they will grow as well, especially in a chronic condition like cardiometabolic disorders. This is where you have one drop or live and go, and you know, they are more like disease management program. They combine behavioral and clinical interventions, and this further down the road will be more and more integrated with remote monitoring, remote consultation, and it will become mainstream. And the third, let's say, paradigm is when you have digital therapeutics that come instead of a drug. Okay, and this will grow, especially when you have somehow a sort of innovation gap in the treatments. And here, I think the management of pain, the management of dementia, the management of mental health, obviously are super promising categories.
Thank you for that. Very exciting times for digital therapeutics indeed. Maybe taking a bit of a geographic lens now, since the giant event is broadcast across multiple European markets. Noah, what in your opinion could be the next big European markets for digital therapeutics in Europe, in Germany?
Apart from Germany, you mean?
Exactly. I mean, Germany's already taken first steps to obviously introduce some of the, let's say, structured pathways, but I'd love to hear some of the opinions you might have about other bigger or smaller markets in Europe.
Yes, of course. I think in general, one needs to point out that I think it's crazy what Germany has brought about with the Digital Care Act, with this very structured route to certify apps or digital solutions that are then part of the general reimbursement scheme. I think it's crazy how quickly that became, and how quickly, yeah, this is now live and running, and especially for Germany, that wasn't. Well, I wouldn't have bet on Germany being the first country to have this general reimbursement scheme, because with regards to other elements in the healthcare system, we aren't the most digital country. I think that put first. Apart from that, obviously, we as SelfAp, we also look into different markets and see which other market could be that one could internationalize into. I think it's difficult because it's obviously different factors that you, as a healthcare provider, are considering. First of all, obviously, it's the whole: is there a chance that people would pay for it themselves for the solution? And there's different countries for that. Like Switzerland, for example, you do see a higher willingness for people to pay for digital solutions themselves. Also, obviously, the US is, they're more prone to that. But then with regards to this very structured route to general reimbursement, I think actually there's no country like Germany right now. I know that it's more easy, or that there is ways for digital solutions to get into general reimbursement with the NHS in the UK. Apart from that, I know that, I've heard that France is looking into different routes, but I think this will all take a bit more time. I don't know.
Remains to be seen. Any other views in the group? Perhaps Gloria?
Well, I find this is a super interesting question in the industry in which we are, because usually when you talk to people from e-commerce or from other industries, you always ask this internationalization question, and then it's everything about how can I scale, how can I multiply, and so on. I think in healthcare it's super specific, because internationalization depends on which insurance system does a country have, how digital affine are the patients, what is the current triage in the country, who is really prescribing, is it the doctor, is it a therapist, is it more a patient-focused country where patients are having more autonomy when it comes to the choosing of therapies. So these are all questions which always needs to be considered as a sum when it comes to internationalization. And when we dig into other countries, At Medica, we always take the sum of these different dimensions to get a understanding how advanced is this country in terms of the acceptance of new solutions. And then the second question is always, well, what are the traction points in the country we can try to approach whenever we wanna dig into the country? And the simple answer on this very simply seeming question, but super complicated question is, it depends. And the same like Nora, I see. So I think even though UK did a lot of questioning things with the Brexit, I think they are tremendously fast when it comes to the acceptance of digital therapeutics and also generally digital applications in healthcare. But nevertheless, I think there are a lot of other European, especially European countries, which are still a little bit under the surface, which we don't see obviously, but that have a massive potential also coming up, especially after COVID.
Perfect, Alex. Anything to add to that?
Maybe just three quick comments here. The first one, DIGA. I think that with regards to digital therapeutics, they moved. I mean, the move is unique and super smart. Super smart because they understood that with digital therapeutics, you don't need upfront the same, they say, drug-like clinical evidence. I mean, it's not the same story, and simply because you don't have the same profile of side effects. So they were super smart in something like, okay, let's just try. Okay, let's just try. And after 12 months, we will see in our organizational setting, what does it mean? So I think it's super smart. And the second comment is that I think that countries like France, UK, Belgium, Sweden, they somehow, for this other, globally speaking, I mean, the health authorities in Europe, they have a skin in the game here. I mean, they want to show that it works. So it's super important for us because let's keep in mind that you can always discuss, share feedbacks, provide recommendation to the health authorities because they are still, let's say, the test and try period. So we can work with them. And third comment maybe for France, we don't have in France DIGA-like go-to-market for digital therapeutics. However, you know, we have the ETAP program for remote monitoring here. And then the Article 51, which is more for innovative disease management or care delivery program. And then, of course, they are starting to show interest in digital solution with, let's say, the standard medical device route. So it's always an interesting area to work on.
Thank you for that. Let's maybe, after having talked about the market a little bit, let's shift gears a little bit. Alexander, I mean, we've seen several partnerships between digital therapeutics and pharma companies over the years. You've said yourself earlier, you've inked a couple of them yourself. And these have really very much created a lot of excitement around the industry. But what we've also seen is that a couple of the examples maybe of partnerships that were maybe inked a few years ago have been disbanded since then. What would be your view on pharma and DTX partnerships going forward? Do you think that's something that will become more mainstream, or it will be more opportunistic, maybe linked to some of the combinations that you talked about before?
No, I really think that the acceleration that we have seen over the last months will go on, right? We will see a further acceleration for two main reasons. The first one is that even if digital therapeutics are software based, you know, you have a sort of shared DNA between DTX players and pharma because you have the science. Okay, a digital intervention is something like a mechanism of action. You have the clinical effectiveness, you have the safety with the regulatory approval. So a sort of shared DNA, and then you have strategic complementarities because it's software based. And so I think that these complementarities, you know, play at two levels, usability and scalability. And maybe if I elaborate a bit here on the usability, as a digital player, you know, you bring the expertise in user experience, in user engagement, and then you have the pharma who will bring the expertise in the patient journey, in the treatment pathway. Then on the scalability, when you, as a DTX, what you bring is data expertise, like the cybersecurity, the algorithm, the AI. You bring as well the interoperability. Should it be with EHR? Should it be with devices? And then you have the pharma. They bring, the global rollout capabilities. Should it be on the market access side, or should it be on the HCP outreach? So when you look at these complementarities and shared DNA, I think that the partnership trend, it will go unabated, let's say, over the next couple of years. And I would add just even that I think that we will even see pharma players acquiring digital therapeutics players. And so this is super important, but in this play, pharma are not the only one in the race. I think that digital pharmacies, virtual care players, they are also super interested in digital therapeutic players.
Thank you for that. Gloria, you've mentioned earlier that Thematica works extensively in partnership with pharma companies, biotechs, and other actors. Could you perhaps share with the audience how you're collaborating with these players and how you think about potential partnerships? For instance, what are some of the main things that you've been solving for in seeking out partners, and the types of collaborations that you've considered as you went through that thinking process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, at Thematica, we have two sides of the business we do. On the one hand side, we have a app development platform, which we use to build digital patient companions and also digital therapeutics for very specific therapeutic areas. On this side, we usually cooperate with pharma when it comes to very specific questions they have. We haven't seen that many pharma corporations yet where a pharma wants to use digital therapeutics in order to increase sales, because there is not yet this very big example out there where you can make billions, and usually pharma is talking about billions when it comes to revenues, where you can make billions of revenue with digital therapeutics. So when we usually cooperate with pharma on the app side, it's questions like, they are seeking to get more real-world evidence into a specific therapeutic area. They want to get a comparison between their study results and the real-world results. They want to get a better understanding of their own therapies' effectiveness compared with competitive therapies. They usually use the insights they generate with us for medical, but also for market access. It's super insightful to get a objective understanding of a market when it comes to price negotiations. They also sometimes use the cooperation with us for marketing reasons. It's a little bit more into the direction of beyond the pill. So also here, simple answer, it depends. And whenever we get into a partnership with a pharma, for us, it's crucial to get an understanding what the real challenge is, and to tackle the specific challenge, because when, for example, the challenge is a market access question, it doesn't make any sense to promote marketing, the marketing side, for example. When it comes to our second business unit, the real-world evidence and the insights into therapy effectiveness, this is a side where we not only work with pharma, but also with biotechs, with public health insurances, with academia, and here we focus more on the learnings we can derive from the app companions we have on the one hand side, but also combine this learning with many other insights like publication study insights, study protocols, and so on. So this is more a insight-driven business we have compared to the app side, which is more a cooperation app companion driven business.
Noah, maybe a question for you. You and SelfAp, you've gone the other route, almost straight to market via the DIGA process, as you've mentioned earlier. Have you at any point considered any partnerships with pharmacos? And you know, if yes, which were maybe some of the reasons why you've decided to go it alone?
Well, yes, we've definitely considered it, and we're still considering it, right? So SelfAp as a company has focused in the past years already always on corporations with health insurance partners that would that would pay for the program's costs for the injuries. But we have done smaller projects with pharmaceutical companies in the past. So we've created a lot of content for patient support programs for pharmaceutical companies. But we didn't focus on these corporations so much in the past. I think what Alex has said is very true, and it is things have changed now because digital solutions now in Germany can be prescribed. So there is actually very good ways to cooperate with digital solutions and pharmaceutical companies. And I do see that I definitely see that there's a strong willingness from pharmaceutical companies to cooperate with DiGA solutions, because I do also think that there is different ways that that each can bring advantages to the table. The digital solution, obviously, they have the technology, they have the certification. Then in the end, whilst the pharmaceutical company, they have the sales fleet, they have the market access, and this is something that not every digital health solution startup has. Like for example, us, we are now setting up our own sales ways to get to doctors to prescribe our solutions. So obviously this is something where you can go a faster route just by cooperating with a pharmaceutical company, as well as obviously things like the price negotiations and stuff. Like obviously pharmaceutical companies have a lot more experiences with regards to that compared to startups in the digital health space. So I do think that it does make sense to work together. The reason why we haven't decided for that with regards to our main programs, which is depression and anxiety, is because we wanted to try it out on our own first, because obviously usually in the beginning sign exclusivity agreements, etc. So we really wanted to try it out with, especially with our core products, to do it on our own. That said, we're currently evaluating the cooperation with diverse pharmaceutical companies with regards to other of our products, and I think depending on the solution, I think it definitely could make sense to work together with pharma, and we are evaluating it, and I think we're open for it. Yeah.
Mm. And I mean, back then when you did decide to then go it alone, was there anything that maybe would have swung your decision in any other way? To say, like, if you say you had that one thing that a pharma company could offer, then you would have said yes. Well, I'll definitely go through a partnership.
I'm not sure. I think not with regards to our main program, depression. So depression, we don't want to be tied towards one player. But with regards to the other programs, I think, yeah, it's always a matter of who's the cooperation partner, like what do they bring to the table with regards to market know-how, with regards to sales fleets, but also I think for us definitely what kind of player is it with regards to how does it feel to work with them together? Because obviously one also has to take care of sometimes different views on what's the fundamental aim. Do we just want to make quick revenue, or do we actually want to find sustainable solutions to improve the lives of people? It's different aspects that we are always evaluating. But I think for our main program, there's been no way right now. We really wanted to try it out first on ourselves. But with regards to the other programs, definitely open. And I think there will be multiple corporations, to be honest, between DiGA, healthcare solutions, and pharmaceutical companies, just because it makes so much sense right now.
Fair enough. Maybe Alexander, any reactions to anything you've heard from Nora and Gloria just now?
Yeah, I think Gloria and Nora, you have really made great points here, and the reality is that so far we have not seen a massive success in terms of revenue generation for the partnerships between DTX and the pharma players. And when I alluded to this fantastic complementarity skill set between pharma and DTX, I mean, this is on the paper, right? So you have to make it real. And if you want to make it real, you have to work on, let's say, on the continuous alignment across the journey and across the partnerships. And it means from the start, in terms of objectives. So you have to share, to align on the objectives, and hence the metrics, the success metrics of this partnership. It should be super clear from the scratch. It might be just improving the efficacy of a patient support program. Okay, maybe if it's just this, let's admit it from scratch and have the relevant KPI. Second, once you have, let's say, an aligned objectives and KPIs, then you have to make sure that the financials are aligned as well. I mean, it should be a win-win partnership. And then the most important thing, and it's super obvious, but once you have this framework, I mean, you have to align on the ways of working. This is super important because, of course, between a DTX company and a large pharma organization, of course, the structure, the culture are super different. So you have to implement super basic project management skills here. Deliverable, timelines, delineating the responsibilities. I mean, it's super simple like this, but in fact, I mean, I would say it's really easier said than done. And this is really lacking today.
And did you find from your experience of having done a few of these partnerships, are there any particular watch-outs that one should be aware of, apart from maybe some of the basics like project management, et cetera, that you just mentioned?
Yes, always check out the wording. I mean, do you speak the same language? So the answer is no. So always, I mean, spell out what do you mean? How do you reflect that in your project management in general? Second thing, you have to surface the objectives. They are not always super clear. And once again, you have to align. And so if it's to improve the real world value of a drug, I mean, just work in that direction. Let's admit it and just do the necessary work here. You should not be in a situation where you have misalignment on the vision and the objectives. So super, super important, all this topic. And I think managing the agility of the digital therapeutics company is super important. Understanding the methodology at the pharma level is super important as well. And when you figure out how you can really make the most of these two topics, methodology and agility, you can really start delivering great things from a design, a development, and then the most important on the rollout. The rollout is really most certainly the most difficult thing today.
Super. Many thanks for all those insightful contributions to you all. I think we're approaching the end of the panel, but I would love to give the opportunity for any closing words on any of the topics that we've discussed, be it the market itself, pharma DTX partnerships, or even just the future of DTX as a whole. Does anyone have any closing words as we wrap up? Maybe Alexandre.
I think really thank you so much for this fantastic conversation today. It was super insightful, and let's go on, right? And let's overcome all the hurdles, and I'm sure we'll get there and we will be successful together.
Perfect. Any other last words?
I can move on. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I think we're definitely at the beginning of massive changes in healthcare, and by having started Medica back in 2015 and thinking about these very super slow steps we did, especially in the first years, 2016, 2017, we are now in this time where things are changing tremendously in a very fast pace. So I'm personally super thankful of being part of this digital shift in healthcare. I think we can do many things for the good by inventing digital solutions. Yeah, it's a great journey. It's a great roller coaster, and I think we should definitely keep an eye on this industry shift because it's definitely something we're going to remember in the next few years.
Yeah, I can only agree, obviously, with the two of you. I think it is such a crazy time right now for digital players to be part of revolutionizing the healthcare systems of countries. I think it's such a great time. And in general, I think the pandemic has done so little good, of course. But if there's one good thing that it brought about, I think, is this acceleration of digital solutions in the healthcare system. So let's not make this go to waste, basically, but let's take on this acceleration and really, build great digital structures to improve digitalization in healthcare.
Wonderful. I love those optimistic words to the end. Let's all be very positively forward-looking. With that, thank you very, very much to all of you as panelists joining me here today on the virtual stage. Very insightful conversation, and also, of course, many big thanks to our viewers here today as well at the event. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.